My best game ever, game versus Vishy and Anand, take one.
I'm Judit Polgar, and I had a long career in the chess world. I've been playing and winning and succeeding against many opponents. Great tournament, exciting journey. Now I want to show you the best game of my career. So I'm inviting you to come and see my game against Vishy Anand, which I played in Spain, in Dos Hermanas, near Seville, in 1999. I started with e4 as I did most of my life. Anand played many different openings in his life, and in this period, he was playing the Sicilian. He wanted to go sharp. He was ready to go sharp against me, and he chose the Najdorf system. Of course, I have been playing a lot against the Najdorf in my life. Basically, from my younger years, I was playing 6f4. Later on, I was playing bishop e2. I was playing bishop c4. I tried out a4, h3. And how the years were passing, I was getting new ideas, starting to play all kind of new moves, trying out things. And of course, at some point in the 90s, I started to play bishop e3, the really sharp way of playing. After bishop e3, knight g4 was the path line of Garry Kasparov. This became very popular. But also the other moves like e6 and e5 are considered very serious move. And then at the time, he was ready to go for the sharpest game in this system by playing e6. And it is very difficult what kind of strategy you do, you make, you figure out, you decide when you play against a top player again and again and again. So in 99, it was not the first game I played with Anand. It was in the early 90s when I played the first game against him. So we had many different occasions to fight. He is a player who can calculate very well, who is very sharp and extremely well prepared. And in these kind of openings, of course, you have to be very well prepared because there are a lot of sharp things. You have to make your home preparation. So in this tournament, before this tournament, I made my preparation to go to a sharp opening because I want to test it, some of the top players in that. So I decided to go to this Perényi attack, a Hungarian master who loved this kind of system. It's forcing, or more to say, inviting black to go e5, attacking their knight and attacking the pawn. So this is why knight f5 is the main move, maybe the only move, I must say. g6, so black is really trying to push away the knight, so this g4 pawn can be vulnerable. But the main idea of this opening, some people like Perényi, he was also playing bishop g2. I was always going to this very concrete line by playing g5, attacking the black knight while I'm not moving away my own knight from f5. Gf5, and now you think that the reason is by playing g5, I also want to take the knight of Vishy. No, that's not the main idea, because if I would take the knight, then black can go f4, pushing back my pieces. No, it is very important in this system to keep the initiative of the position. So I'm just keeping the tension with the pawn on g5, attacking the knight. At the same time, I'm just moving e takes f5. And in this position, we are going to be seeing the great wrestling battle over the d5 square, over the initiative, how and who can make better development and have more energy and attack in the game. So in this position, d5 is obviously the move of black. We are playing and blitzing out this position with Vishy. He's well prepared. I also know what's going on in this line. Here, white goes queen f3, not even thinking and bothering to take on f6, because then d4. This is an other line, by the way, because, for example, there is an opportunity for white to go bishop c4. Indirectly defending the piece, because after that bishop f7 would be a trap and black is losing the queen. But in these kind of positions, black can go knight d7. There are lots of action, analysis, craziness in this position. But GF was not considered the best. Somehow it is more important for white to be able to create difficulties for the opponent. Just keep pressing. I'm with queen f3. From one hand, I'm defending the f5 pawn. And more importantly, I'm getting ready to castle because, of course, black by playing d5, it was not the only idea to cover the weakness of the square of d5, but also black is planning to push forward and to give a fork for my pieces. But of course, I'm ready for this and I go long castle. So now the d4 pawn is under a pin, right? So black cannot take. So how black is continuing, goes knight d7, unpinning the pawn on d4. So now already black is ready to capture one of the pawns. This position was something, for example, Shirov liked to play very much. I was also playing from the other side because in those times it was a very fashionable line. And in this position, this game is played in 1999, and just years later, in 2005, I was having the idea, analyzing it with Jan Timman later, to sacrifice the bishop on d4. And I won a fantastic game against Kasimdzhanov in 2005. But in this game, I was preparing this bishop d2 idea, giving up the knight a piece in a different way. So black takes, d takes c3, bishop takes c3. So now what do we have? I have two pieces down. My knights are missing, my favorite pieces. At the same time, I have one pawn in return. No, actually, I have two pawns in return. And I'm attacking the knight on f6. At the same time, I'm not sure when is it going to be the right moment to capture that one. So in this position, black has to be very careful. I can tell you that I felt during the game that Anand was not happy that we were playing this position. He knew that I made my home preparation. He knows exactly that white has huge compensation. At the same time, he also understands it because of his work and homework that the position is not bad for black. It should be more or less balanced, but you never know what I made cooked at home, right? What kind of novelty. So he went bishop g7, preparing the castling. And now I went rook g1. Now I remember that Vishy played pretty fast, and it was a mistake. It was dangerous. At the same time, you're struggling with yourself. You understand that your opponent made the home preparation. You understand that the position should be okay. You want to have safety for your king. At the same time, you understand that is it really safe if I'm going to be castling? In these positions, many times queen c7 is the other move which has to be considered for several reasons. First of all, you're not sure whether the king stands better on g8 in such a line where the rook is. Maybe eventually one day you can castle long. That's another story. The other one is to defend the e5 pawn because sometimes it can be vulnerable. Another thing, which is maybe the most important thing, that white's bishop would be standing very well at some point. If you see other games, you will find it that the bishop on c4 can be incredibly dangerous because it has the intention to ruin the black's king position. So queen c7 is also good for this, and it's also going out of the pin. So this was actually the best move in this position, I believe, and probably I could take it, bishop f6. And then we are still struggling and trying to make, I'm going to put pressure, but still I have a piece down and only having a pawn in return. But when you're playing your game, you want safety. So Vishy went castle and decided that he just wants to go king h8 fast, probably. So I took g takes f6, queen f6. There is no other way, right, because of the pin. And after queen f6, now I had a dilemma what to play. Because in these kind of positions, you have to understand that you cannot make it work at home. How can you make your preparation in these kind of games? First of all, you have to love this kind of structure that you're sacrificing, you're giving up material. You have to be ready to be playing with a lot of energy. You have to be ready to calculate a lot of positions with tactics here and there. You have to have a good sleep to do all this. So it does not work by itself. You have to go and be focused and stay in the present moment, because if you don't do it, you can just lose it in one move. So in this position, there were two moves which I was considering. I was considering queen g3, and the other one was queen e3. And it was not so easy to make a decision, I must tell you, because both has ideas. One idea goes for both, because if I go queen e3 or queen f3, one of the main ideas is to go f4 and trying to get advantage out of this pawn which is pinned. And I mean, everything, all my pieces are looking towards the g7 bishop, right? So the other thing is, I'm not sure whether queen on g3, I'm attacking putting pressure on the e5. So sometimes I'm threatening to take on d7. For example, you can see this. And because of all the pins, but if the queen on e3, it's exactly the same more or less. I mean, here even maybe black has a check. So you start calculating all this, but it's also not so easy to calculate all the way. So somehow I decided that, you know what, I prefer to have queen e3, controlling this diagonal, and actually I'm more happy with having the rook on g5 without my queen, because maybe I want to sacrifice rook g7. So after queen e3, the very obvious move came, king h8, of course, he wants to go out, safety, but it seemed like the 64 square were not really enough to have safety for the king. Of course, bishop h6 is something black wants. So if this king would be here, it would be another story. It would be a much easier situation for white. But of course, one tempi can make a huge difference in deciding the game. So how to continue? Of course, I had my plan how to continue. Of course, I'm going to play the energetic f4, right? Because everything what I want is really do treble for black on that diagonal. And this was a critical position in the game, because there were a lot of options for black. So black, one idea is to go queen b6, taking the opportunity that the queen on e3 and pushing me aside. Another opportunity for black to go queen h6. Another one to go rook g8. Another one to go rook e8. So there are a lot of things, and you start calculating, and you're feeling that something is not so good, and then you're not really happy with it. So what black could make a move. Bishop h6 was not working at all, even though I'm in the pin. I would just take rook takes d7, bishop d7, bishop e5, and I'm winning the queen and the game as well. There was another option for black to go queen h6 at the same time. This was also something to go immediately, which was a better option. But really the best of the best move was to go rook e8, to stabilize the pawn on e5. So this was the very best move in the position. And then I still have many ideas. I can go king b1 first. Still, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on the position. But queen b6 also seemed to be not a bad move. He pushed me away, queen g3. Now I'm attacking the bishop, queen h6. And now there is a very important move which I made. I remember I said, oh, this I have to make. I went rook d6. Because this queen is protecting the bishop, so I'm trying to take that away, right? So, but it's impossible, because then I give it checkmate. So now black had to choose between several options. Knight f6 was one of the options. F6 was the other one. F6 is very ugly, I must tell you, and this is what Vishy had to be playing. If knight f6, then I would be playing bishop e5, and if finally black is developing with bishop f5, then I can take on g7, queen takes g7, and after that I would go bishop f6, simplifying the position. And you see that I have an extra pawn in this position, which probably will be enough for a victory. I was very happy if this would be standing on the board also. No regrets until this point. So after rook d6, black played f6. So why was I really so happy about it that I forced f6? First of all, because the knight can never come there. The second thing is, look at this bishop. Is it a bishop or a pawn? I mean, it looks like a big pawn. Another thing that, as a good player, you visualize different patterns. So, for example, I can visualize it that if I go bishop c4, and let's say this bishop would be not there, then I would give a checkmate over there. So I understood that it's very difficult for black to make a move. But after f6, I had to be very sharp. And also, actually, sometimes I'm thinking that if this would be not attacked, let's say this pawn would be on e4, oh, I can go queen g4, rook h3, rook h3 to trap the queen. So I have many, many options. So in order not to have this tension, I went bishop d2. This was a very important move. And here really Vishy started to get very uncomfortable. After the game much later, we figured out that there is an incredible move reaction for black which was possible. Unbelievable line which will coming up. He played e4. But there was an opportunity for black to make a move which was quite unexpected, I'd say. Knight c5. But I think for none of us really it came to our mind knight c5 because fe5, I'm just attacking the queen, so there's nothing to calculate. But there is, because there is this amazing move knight e4, while black queen is hanging, there is a counterattack by playing with knight e4. So what to do with white? And the unbelievable, curious situation is that white has an incredible move after knight e4, just continuing this amazing position, leaving all the queens attacked. The rook is attacked, the bishop is attacked, and I just take e takes f6, giving up my queen. So if after knight takes g3, taking the bishop with the check, so obviously only the black queen is able to capture it back, and then rook g3. And in this position, probably black should be going queen takes g3, takes, but black has a very serious problem that at this point, black cannot take and be relieved in this position, because then I would have a check, pushing the king there, and finally my bishop shows up on c4, and I'm gaining material and winning the game. So this is not possible for black, which is quite annoying from the black side. Black has to play, I believe, h5, and then I can go, for example, bishop h6. Black can give back the material, but after bishop f8, rook f8, I still have a pawn up. But this line that I've seen later on, I have to admit that not by myself, but with the help of an engine. Of course, the engine was giving it in a fraction of a second. At first, you're just thinking in 99, of course, in those days, we were using already engines, but what is knight c5? Why is it not just losing instantly? So there was this incredible opportunity for black to choose. I don't know how I would have been reacting in this position, but for both of us, it was a shock that this kind of line could happen. So after bishop d2, if you don't see this defensive idea of knight c5, knight e4, you have no other move. You have to play e4. So after e4, I was kind of very happy in this position, because I felt that, okay, now the queen is completely out of sight, completely. So one day I can just go here and win the queen. So my next goal was somehow to start my development, because the f1 bishop is the only one which was not playing until this point. So I thought I'd bring this out. And but also at the same time, I was busy that the knight shouldn't be coming here. But for some reason, I decided that bishop c4 is the move for me. Because I felt also that on e6, it can be extremely powerful. And but the most important thing in this position, that I stop black from getting any activity, because the queen cannot move. The bishop cannot move. The rook can move. For now, only the knight can move. But if the knight would be moving to c5, I could be doing bishop e6, for example, anyway, and also bishop e3, attacking the knight. So black played b5. And in this position, Again, I had a choice to make. Of course, I felt that I should be almost winning practically. But of course, you have to be very careful because precision is part of the game. So many top players can tell you stories, how much we ruin winning positions, and that is painful sometimes for a lifetime. And now I went bishop e6. Bishop d5 was maybe even better, but bishop e6, I wanted to attack the knight. Rook a7. Now I went bishop e3, attacking the rook. No, I didn't play bishop e3. I went rook c6. Because, very important, rook c6, because after bishop e3, I thought I don't want to allow black to go rook c7. So this is why I decided to go rook c6. So just to box that rook as much as possible. So black went a5. I went bishop e3, attacking the rook, trying to push away the rook from the 7th rank so I can conquer and occupy the 7th rank. Black played rook b7. And now I found the interesting idea because my goal was really to reach the 7th rank with my rook. And I went rook bishop d5. What is the idea of bishop d5? I can tell you it's not primarily that I want to take this pawn. No, I want to threat with rook takes c8 and getting back my material, sacrifice material. So that's why black played rook b8. And now finally I succeeded and I reached my 7th rank with my rook. So now you see that in the last 5 moves, I really improved my position because I have a fantastic setup with my queen and the rook. Then the bishop is sometimes can show up on a7 and grab the rook, but I'm not really busy with that. I have full control and stability. The knight cannot make a move because now the g7 bishop would be also hanging. The rook cannot make a move. The bishop cannot make a move because it has to defend the knight. So everything is completely under control. So black played b4. What can Vishy do? He says, okay, I want air, I want space for my pieces. So you start pushing pawns and you're trying to look for counter chances and wait. And after b4, this is the position where I remember exactly, we were playing in Dos Hermanas, we're playing 10 players event. Top guys are playing. And I think Leko was playing, Kramnik was playing, Galfand, many of the guys. And I made a move which I felt that maybe it's not the best move in the position, but it's the best move psychologically to win the game. And it is not my style, or at that time people were not considering me being able to make quiet moves. No, I just want to kill my opponent. I just want to attack. And I went b3. I think it's move 31. I'm not sure. Or 34. b3. And I remember when I played b3, I also felt that the game is over. There were other good moves and tactical moves, gaining back some material. But after b3, the problem is there is simply no move for black. First of all, I'm playing against my opponent's plan. What did he want? He had his plan to play a4, give up pawns, whether it's good or not. That's what he wants to do. So when I played b3, and it was very interesting that later on after the game, I went to the analysis room and Ubilava was the coach of Anand for many years and then this time also. And I talked with him also and he said, yeah, when you played b3, it was over. So there are sometimes, you don't win the game with the very best moves, but you win the game how it is the practical way of winning. And I was so proud that with all these tactical sacrificing pieces, making this attack, always something concrete. I asked question from Anand during the whole game. And then I played this quiet move. So he went through b5, like there is nothing better than that. And then I went bishop c6, attacking the rook. So he captured the pawn on f5. And again, of course, I had an option to capture the d7 first, but I went to the simplification because I believe in this, that when we have a winning position, we have to find the best way how to finish the game, giving the less opportunity and counter chances for the opponent. And if you know that your opponent is very unhappy with one of the choice, then you definitely have to go that way. Not because we are bad people, because we want to win the game. Bishop d7, double attack. So black had to be moving his rook to defend, so at least he gains something back. I went bishop f5, rook f5. So now finally there is equal material for the first time in the game. At the same time, white's position is much better because now finally I'm moving from the g file to d1 with my rook. I'm threatening to enter on the d5 with my rook. Vishy played king g8, and I played the very quiet queen g2 move, attacking the pawn on e4. And basically after this move, I think it was move 36, I don't know, but it was enough for Anand. So he said, okay, he resigned. And it was very interesting, this game, because it has a very big impact on me. And ever since, I'm very happy to talk about this game because it was very special. But also I was in a very special moment in my personal life. And it was very funny later on. People were telling that, well, you have a ring, and people were wondering what it is. I was engaged with my future husband already. So, of course, everybody's talking. But, of course, after that, they were talking more of this game than about my private life. Later on in this tournament, I was not able to play very well. But this single game was worth the whole tournament. I can tell you that.
First of all, what a fantastic game, and I have to say this this reminds me of why chess is also art. When I see all the pieces coordinating, working together, doing a good job. And can you just try and describe the feeling you have when you're a young female player, you're in your early 20s, and you're about to crush one of the best players in the world with such a fantastic game? Like, what emotions or what thoughts are going through your brain and body in such a moment?
As I was competing already with top guys, it was not the first time I was playing. So it is very difficult to consider your strategy each time, because you're, of course, following yourself, what kind of form you are, what systems, openings you play, where you're standing in your knowledge and understanding. And of course, also depending what keeps you busy in your new opening preparation, that's how you're trying to tailor it for your opponent. And of course, with time, I understood much better how to do that. And specifically in this game, I choose this opening because I felt that if I put pressure from the very beginning against Anand, it can be uncomfortable. And when it becomes uncomfortable, then maybe he's doing damage to himself already. So with time, I was understanding more of my opponents and weaknesses and strengths. And not only weaknesses and strengths, but the personality they are. And also, of course, round 1 is different than from round 8. So it's a warm-up phase, and I immediately was playing with a very aggressive opening choice. It was not easy to play for me. At the same time, I was never too much, I was not afraid. I knew that it's always tough. And I have to come up with new ideas again and again and again and again. And I have to be very self-critical in order to be able to improve my chess.